Hey everybody, welcome back to another version of Outback Eats. We're finally here. It's fake spring in Colorado, so we are excited to cook outside on the fire a little bit today. We've got three things we're going to show you. First of all, of course, we're going to do some cowboy coffee on the campfire. We are also going to make some quick baking powder biscuits. That will be incorporated with some tomato maple syrup towards the end of our video. We're going to use those biscuits also to make our version of cowboy quiche. So it was 13 years ago today, I had a Facebook memory pop up that my son, my wife, and I cooked our first cowboy quiche. And I've invited a special guest, my son Braden, to help us recreate that cowboy quiche today. Braden, you're on! All right, 13 years ago today, Braden and my wife and I cooked our first version of cowboy quiche. We actually cooked it at Cabela's Dutch oven cook-off. And of course I remember getting first, but who knows what we got. Anyway, we're all a little bit better looking now than we were then, especially Braden. Anyway, he's my special guest today. He's gonna jump in here. He was about this tall when we started 13 years ago. He's gonna be the sous chef today as we get started out here on the campfire. This morning we're going to be making quick baking powder biscuits. We're making it out of this well-used cookbook here called The Spirit of the West. It's got lots of good cowboy ranch recipes in there. This particular recipe is from a gal named May Ketchum Cox. Anyway, she came up with a quick recipe for biscuits that doesn't take quite as long, although biscuits are very simple. Blend the baking powder and flour up well. There's a whisk. There you go. 3 tablespoons of chilled butter. We're doubling it up. 6. We'll add the butter to our flour mixture, and then we're going to cut that butter in with pastry knives, but I like to just use my bare hands.
Sous Chef Braden is doing fantastic.
Alright, Braden just added 6 tablespoons of vegetable shortening. So we've got vegetable shortening and butter. Keep blending this until it turns into cornmeal texture here. You can see, Joe, how it's starting to look more like cornmeal. Now it's time to throw these in our preheated Dutch oven. What exactly is preheating? We had that discussion. Is it heating or preheating, Joe?
Technically it's heating.
Technically I think it's heating. I've had this fire started here for probably 3 or 4 hours this morning. And first thing, of course, that every good cowboy does is throw some coffee on the fire. We used our Chuck Wagon coffee grinder, our favorite whole coffee beans. And here we've got added our coffee beans to our boiling water. Should be done here shortly. We'll enjoy a cup of coffee while we're making these biscuits. We've got our 14-inch Dutch oven that we're gonna make our biscuits in. I've just set this next to the fire just to kind of get the oven warmed up and ready to go. It's not hot, but you can see it's all ready to go. We're gonna add our biscuits to this. Okay, we moved outside to our outdoor kitchen. We've got our preheated Dutch oven. It's obviously warm, but it's not hot. 14-inch Dutch. These are fairly simple biscuits. We're not going to roll these out. They're just called drop biscuits or a quick baking powder biscuit. They've got a little bit more moisture to them, a little stickier, but it's fairly simple, fairly quick. A little bit of space, but to be honest with you, Joe, they're not going to spread much. So we can keep those things pretty snug. We're going to cook these biscuits at 375. There is a little bit of science when we're using charcoal briquettes on a campfire. A lot more art than science, but the science behind it would be if we're going to create a 3 1/4 oven, the rule is 3 up, 3 down if we're going to use a charcoal briquette. So if I'm using a 14-inch Dutch, here Joe, it says 14, and we're going to create a 325 oven, I want 17 briquettes on top and 11 underneath. For every 25 degrees above or below that, we're going to add a briquette or subtract a briquette. So we're after a 375 oven this morning. 3 up, 3 down rule would be 17 on top, 11 underneath. We've got 50 extra degrees, so we're going to add 2 briquettes. So we're going to go 19 briquettes on top and 13 underneath. That's approximate. That's a good way to start with a new briquette. After that, it becomes art. Basically gauging the size of your briquettes, the wind, how long you've been cooking, all kinds of factors that go into that. That's what makes it fun. The biscuits aren't going to take too long. These here probably take 10 to 12 minutes at a 375 oven, so we're not going to need any extra briquettes today. If you're doing a long cook, it's going to take you 30 minutes, 60 minutes, an hour and a half, and have to have a constant supply of briquettes always ready to go to keep your food hot, keep it at the right temperature. Okay, Joe, today we're making our cowboy quiche, but we're going to make it with elk sausage. This elk is an elk that my son Jacob harvested about a year ago. We have our own homemade sausage recipe. We're also going to incorporate a few spices from Jess Prill's Hardcore Carnival. It's her camo game and lamb. We'll try that out this morning. Pour a little cold water in there to settle the grounds in our cowboy coffee. How are those looking?
Those look great.
Yep. Biscuits are done. We're enjoying our coffee. We're going to use these biscuits in our quiche. We'll get to that here in a few minutes. So let's get started on that next. How about this, Joe? We're going to create this recipe from scratch today, and then we're going to put a recipe link below. And you can adjust that. We'll give you some ideas how to adjust that based on the size of the quiche that you're going to make. We're going to be using our 14-inch Dutch, and so I think we're going to need about 12 eggs, but we're going to have to adjust that a little bit depending on how thick we want to make it. 2 cups of half and half. I'm a little short on half and half, so we're going to finish that with milk. 18 eggs, 2 cups of half and half so far. You like your mushrooms whole or diced? Diced. Red pepper for color. 1 cup of cheddar. Spinach for good measure to make you feel healthy. How's that looking, Braden? You want to shake of salt and pepper? Yeah. About a teaspoon of salt. There you go. And 2 teaspoons. There you go. About a half a cup of diced sauteed onions, and then we're going to add an additional roughly cup of your favorite sausage. I need to clarify something. 5 minutes ago, these were inadvertently called muffins. These are not a muffin.
I wonder who did that.
With these muffins.
Come on, sous chef Braden.
Biscuits.
This is a cowboy biscuit. Now to make and define our cowboy quiche, we're gonna make our crust out of crumbled biscuits. We'll just crumble those by hand, they're still warm. Woo! Nice flaky biscuits. I know you want to taste those now, but we need to make sure I got enough for our crust.
That looks beautiful. Sous chef Braden has shown up with the extra biscuits.
We'll dump these crumbled biscuits into this 14-inch Dutch, and then we're going to press these biscuits into a thin layer. Save a little bit for the edge. Now it's not your grandma's pie crust, but it's going to be pretty good. Is this something Elijah could be proud of?
Oh, I think so.
Yeah. We've got our biscuit crust, we've got our quiche mixture. So we've added 1 cup of cheddar to the quiche mix. We're going to cook that about 30 minutes-ish, give or take. And then with about 10 minutes left, we'll pull the lid, add a little more cheddar on top, and then finish it off. We're gonna cook this at 350, Joe. Approximately, right? Everything's approximate with coals and fire outdoors. Using our 3 up, 3 down rule, at least we're gonna start with 12 coals. Am I right? What's up next is we're gonna make a tomato maple syrup to go over our biscuits. This particular recipe was from a ranch in northern Colorado in the Chalk Bluffs region. This story is told by Leo V. Price. I'd grown up hearing that Steve McCoy was quite a cook, so I was thrilled to find an account in this journal of a roundup held in the early 1900s for which Steve did the cooking. There was a small 2-day roundup in the early summer that ended up at Steve McCoy's place. Steve was living at the old MacGyver place at that time. The writers were Ed and I, Steve McCoy, Harry Hole, Jack Boyle, and Will Ketchum, Mr. Budd, Frank MacGyver, Leo Aker, and a couple of men from Johnstown who were up visiting Steve. It was a short roundup to get the early spring calves branded, and the cattle hadn't had time to get scattered too far over the range. We pushed the cows and calves towards Steve's ranch and then left them out on the prairie, out away from Steve's. Then all into Steve's for chow and rest for the night. The next morning we went out and brought the herd into Steve's corrals. We had 75 to 100 cows with calves, and it was a big day's work, roping and branding. In the evening, the boys traded stories, played cards, and enjoyed the rest that they had earned. I'll never forget the breakfast Steve had the next morning. Steve made up a big batch of biscuits, and one thing he had, which hit the spot for us and made me always wonder that breakfast, was some tomato maple syrup. Something I had never had before, and I thought it was the best stuff that was ever invented. He took a can of tomatoes and dumped it into a frying pan, then dumped in some sugar and cooked it until it was almost preserves. Flavored it with maple. Boy, I'll never forget that treat of good biscuits and hot tomato syrup. It was worth all the hard days riding and holding down calves. That's from Pioneer Days, Leo V. Price. Got a little bounce to it. I think it's done. We're going to pull that off. Those eggs are going to set just even a little bit more, so we're going to pull it off the heat. All right, we finished up this morning, guys, for our cowboy brunch. We've got a cowboy quiche that we cooked on the campfire, some quick baking powder biscuits, Steve McCoy's tomato maple with some green green chili. So this is Jared's tomato maple green chili syrup that's going to go on top of our biscuits. And of course, a nice cup of Cowboy coffee. All right, we're going to get busy plating this up because we're all starving. It's been a bit here. Everybody's getting a little antsy. It's a great day here in Colorado today. This is a good meal to cook up for your Mother's Day brunch. Just a good summer Sunday morning brunch. Turned out pretty good. Not too bad.
Sous Chef Braden, what's the verdict?
I would rank it 9.5 out of 9.5.
On the quiche. How about the syrup? What are your thoughts on that?
You gotta give it a ranking of 1 to 5. I gotta think of something creative here. What would Elijah have for us as a cowboy ranking?
As a cowboy ranking.
Wild buckaroos,
Bear hides.
bear hides.
The syrup is really good, actually.
How many out of 5 bear hides would you rate?
Can I say a 5?
Yeah, you
I
can.
mean,
say
if you
5.
feel 5, that's good.
That's good.
Is it?
Mm-hmm.
Braden's a fan.
Nice.